the end of the 19th and beginning of the 20th century, the United States experienced a powerful wave of immigration. Millions of people, primarily from Eastern and Southern Europe, arrived in America in search of a better life. However, alongside the economic and cultural barriers they had to overcome, immigrants encountered another unexpected obstacle: the demands of personal hygiene. Americans, having only recently recognized the importance of cleanliness, began imposing new standards on newcomers, often using harsh and even humiliating methods. One of the most vivid symbols of forced hygiene was the procedure at Ellis Island, the main gateway to the U.S. for millions of arrivals. After an exhausting journey across the Atlantic, immigrants were required to undergo medical examinations, along with mandatory cleansing. People were forced to strip, doused with disinfectant solutions, and in some cases had their heads shaved. This was done due to fears of spreading diseases like trachoma, tuberculosis, and typhus. But it also reflected a widespread belief that cleanliness was a sign of civilization. American doctors and officials sincerely believed that dirt was not just a physical condition, but a marker of cultural and moral inferiority. Particular attention was given to the Irish, Italians, Jews, and people from Eastern Europe. They were often seen as wild and dirty, and therefore needed to be corrected. Americans believed that regular bathing and hygiene practices would make these individuals more suitable for integration into society. In poor neighborhoods where many immigrants settled, public bathhouses were actively introduced to educate them on the new standards of cleanliness. Some of these facilities provided free soap, towels, and even lessons on how to wash properly. Yet these initiatives were often accompanied by aggressive propaganda and a condescending attitude from local reformers. Hygiene propaganda also infiltrated schools, where American teachers monitored the cleanliness of immigrant children with striking severity. Children were frequently sent home if their hands or clothes were deemed insufficiently clean. Many schools introduced mandatory morning inspections. Teachers would check students' ears, necks, and fingernails, teaching them the right habits. This was part of a broader assimilation strategy. If a child looked clean and well-kept, they appeared more American and stood a better chance of social success. But not everything went smoothly. Immigrants, especially those from rural areas, often didn't understand why Americans insisted so much on frequent washing. In their home villages, cleanliness usually meant washing hands before meals and the occasional bath. In Europe, public bathhouses existed in major cities, but in the countryside they were rare, and plumbing was an unaffordable luxury. Moreover, in Catholic and Orthodox traditions, water was primarily used for ritual purposes, not for everyday hygiene. Americans, on the other hand, viewed hygiene not only as a means of disease prevention, but as a key component of social status. Dirt was associated with poverty, ignorance, and moral decline. Any sign of uncleanliness was perceived as a marker of a lower culture. Over time, the enforcement of new standards began to bear fruit. In the late 19th century, less than 3% of New York's tenement dwellers had bathrooms. By the 1930s, that number had risen to 89%. Bathing became not just a practice, but a social obligation. Neglecting it led to social condemnation. American advertising campaigns promoting soap, deodorants, and toothpaste further strengthened the link between cleanliness and success. Those who looked and smelled clean were more likely to get better jobs, earn people's trust, and integrate more easily into society. Today, such methods may seem cruel and discriminatory, but at the turn of the 20th century, they were viewed as part of progress. Americans took pride in their cleanliness, considering it a defining trait of civilization. For immigrants, hygiene became yet another test on the road to the American dream. Alongside learning the language, finding employment, and facing prejudice,